Hey guys, this is Steve Jones again. We're continuing a small series on some important doctrines like the Trinity and the Incarnation. The Trinity has definitely been an orthodox doctrine of Christianity throughout the centuries. One of the big accusations against the Trinity is that it was a later invention. Some people say it was invented at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Well, this video is going to hopefully put that accusation to rest, and probably the best argument against that accusation was found in my first video. If you want to refer to my video, Does the Bible Teach the Trinity? And some people will say, well, the word Trinity is not in the Bible, and yes, that is true, but I argued in my first video that Trinity is implicitly taught throughout the Bible. On this video, I'd like to kind of do a small snapshot of some of the early writers, the Christian writers, hundreds of years before 325 AD, to see what they have to say on the nature of God, when the word Trinity was first used, some of the discussions that were going on in the centuries before the Council of Nicaea. Some of the earliest writings we have after the New Testament come from a man named Ignatius. Ignatius lived between 335 AD and 107 AD. And if you read his writings, he talked a lot about the nature of Jesus Christ. And the interesting thing is he was combating a heresy known as Docetism. And the most interesting thing about Docetism is that a Docetist doesn't deny the deity of Christ, that Jesus is God. A Docetist denies that Jesus was human, or that Jesus was man. And so we have writings of Ignatius arguing for the humanity of Christ. Well, the implication there is that very, very early on in church history, we have just the assumption of Jesus's divinity, his status as being God. Another writer named Theophilus, he was the bishop of Antioch, and he was the first man to use the word Trinity. Some think it was Tertullian, but Theophilus wrote before Tertullian, 166 AD. So that's 165 years before the Council of Nicaea. This concept of the Trinity, actual word Trinity, was being used. And the interesting thing about Theophilus, the bishop of Antioch, is he's using the word Trinity in kind of an offhand way. It's not like he's coining a term. And so historians would kind of infer that this word Trinity was already a word that was regularly used within the church. And so we don't have other writings to confirm that, but it appears that it was a pretty well-known term at that time, 165 years before Nicaea ever met. So another writer, Athenagoras, he wrote around 175 AD. That's 150 years before the Council of Nicaea. In his writings, you can read quotations such as God the Father and God the Son. And so he's using very Trinitarian language hundreds of years before the Council of Nicaea. Another man named Irenaeus, he was one of the early Christian apologists who defended the Christian faith and wrote volumes about the Christian faith. He was writing around 165 years before the Council of Nicaea. He spoke of the triune nature of God. He called Jesus the creator of all things. he says the Father was uncreated, and he also spoke about the functions of the Holy Spirit. He said the Holy Spirit was the one who worked through the prophets, who leads the righteous, and he also speaks about the Holy Spirit being poured out on us to renew humanity in the New Testament concept. So he's talking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as divine, and is essentially teaching on the Trinity hundreds of years before Nicaea. Clement of Alexandria, he wrote about 193 AD. This is 130 years roughly before the Council of Nicaea. He wrote a hymn calling Jesus God, and he talked more about the triune nature of God in some of his writings. Tertullian, who I mentioned before, say Tertullian 3 times fast, he wrote roughly 125 years before the Council of Nicaea. And what he was writing about was he was combating a heresy known as Sabellianism. And Sabellianism, also sometimes called modalism, says that, well, God really isn't 3 distinct persons. God is one person or one being that has just 3 different modes. And you run into lots of problems with that. And Tertullian was a lawyer, very brilliant man who defended the Trinity. He tried to explain the 3 persons of God by talking about the Son and how nobody has actually seen the Sun, talking about the physical, literal sun, the thing that heats our earth. And he said no one has been to the Sun to see the actual Sun, and he would relate that to the Father, but he said that all of us we've seen the rays of the sun, how they flow forever out from the sun. And he also talked about the Holy Spirit and how we feel the warmth of the sun's rays. And so he was trying to find some sort of analogy to explain the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit and how they're distinct, yet they are all one divine being. Now, lastly, Novatian writes in roughly 235, that's about 90 years before the Council of Nicaea ever met. He writes about the equality of the Father with the Son, which was a huge point that the Council of Nicaea had to defend. So, what do we see here? Well, we see many writers talking about the nature of God, sometimes hundreds of years before the Council of Nicaea ever met. So was the Council of Nicaea some secret plot to invent a doctrine of Christianity? No, absolutely not. We actually have 4,200 pages of ancient writings of some of these early Christians, and so we're able to get a very, very clear grasp of what they did understand, some of the confusions they had, how they had to work through some of these things. But the Trinity was very much taught well before the Council of Nicaea ever met. So if somebody says that, just please inform them that that is very bad history, and we actually have primary sources that disprove that pretty convincingly and definitively. So I think I'd just like to end with just kind of explaining the Council of Nicaea, since I've talked a lot about that. Why did they meet? Well, there were many heresies throughout those early centuries. I already mentioned a couple of them here, but one of them arose from a man named Arius and the Arian heresy, and he was trying to kind of lessen the nature of Jesus. He claimed Jesus had a beginning and was lesser than the Father in his nature and essential qualities. And so there began a huge debate between him and Athanasius, and men like Gregory of Nyssa rose up to kind of defend the already well-established view of Jesus as not only the Son of God, but God the Son, the divine God-man who came and dwelt among us as the eternal Word, the eternal Logos. So these men had many very sharp debates with one another, and the church had to put to rest some of Arius's claims that Jesus was less than God and had a beginning, and so many things that were already against the church's established teaching. So they met at Nicaea to make a very definitive creedal statement, the Nicene Creed it's known as, and this statement just kind of puts in hard ink that would last for literally ever throughout the church history that Jesus is God, the Father is God, the Holy Spirit is God. There is a Trinity. There always has been a Trinity. There is one God and yet three persons that make up the divine Godhead that Christians believe in. So that was the reason why Nicaea met. It was to put to rest some of the questions about the nature of God, the nature of Christ, and to establish that, to set it in stone. So I hope you guys like this video. That pretty much sums up what I was trying to accomplish here. I will have more videos coming out either on the nature of the Trinity or the Incarnation, which is also a very interesting subject. If you would, please subscribe to my channel. Just hit the subscribe button either down in the corner here, or you can scroll down and hit subscribe so you guys can know when more videos are coming out. Thank you guys for watching. Please write me a comment. Let me know what you thought. If you have any questions or objections, or you think I'm crazy, just write it down below. I'd love to get back to you in the comment section. So God bless you guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you, and stay tuned for more to come. Thanks again. Bye-bye.